welcome to Tuco's Talks. Tuco's Talks is a leadership podcast where we talk to military leaders and to athletic coaches to try to figure out how do we take care of people and how do we learn and fail forward. Well, I do want to thank Moray Classical Schools for partnering with us. Moray Classical Schools is a private Christian classical school specifically tailored for military kids. If you do not know about Moray Classical Schools, I highly recommend you go to morayclassical.org and learn more about them. We've talked about leadership, we've talked about development, but today we're going to talk about specifically how to do that. And Charlie Livings, he's the president and CEO of Tip of the Spear Professional Coaching, is going to walk us through professional development and leadership in multiple contexts, talk about transitions from military to civilian life. And then he's going to talk a little bit about the importance of building a network and having professional development. Well, make sure that you like and subscribe and get ready to check in with Tuco's Talks. Hello and welcome to Tuco's Talks. I am excited. Another day of interviews. This is going to be so much fun today. Today is a special guest. We have Mr. Livings on, and someone that I actually met through a friend of mine and was like, you have to meet this guy. And so I'm so excited. So Mr. Livings, thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. And Charlie, please. Mr. Livings is my father. He's an old grumpy guy. You don't want to meet him.
I say the same thing all the time when people were like, Colonel Wright. And I was like, oh, Chris. Yeah, Colonel Wright's my dad. That's fantastic. Fantastic. Well, Charlie, thank you so much. Why don't you take just a quick moment and introduce yourself?
I appreciate that. Thanks, Chris. I'm Charlie Livings. I serve as the president and CEO, co-founder of Tip of the Spear Professional Coaching. I spent the last 40 years teaching communication in one form or another, mostly at the collegiate level, but then as I moved into a variety of manufacturing and business settings, saw a need to help veterans write resumes and help them with interviewing skills and networking strategies and how to approach the job hunt as they were transitioning out of the service. And so I've spent the last 15 to 20 years in one form or another doing that. And so it's been my privilege and an honor to help them as they were trying to navigate their transition. And so we're in this role now, helping additional professionals and young managers, young aspiring professionals to achieve their career goals. And so we do a lot of the same tactics, but we also help with leadership training and professional certifications along that route to help them achieve those career goals.
Awesome. Well, we have to stop right now because a lot of my brethren are going to be focused 100% on the e-tool hanging over your left shoulder, our right side. It was the first question that I asked. I was like, wait a second. So let's go ahead and address, what is an e-tool do hanging from your door?
Well, my veteran friends here will recognize that all of you have your Love Me walls and all the accoutrements and gadgets and challenge coins and that sort of stuff. I'm very privileged to have been recognized by former SEAC John Wayne Troxel and his helping veterans with transition. And one of his former soldiers was on my team and had come to me in his transition, in fact, worked for me as a volunteer for 9 months. And then we offered him a position. He worked for me for 3 years, and now he's out doing God's work in Warrior Set Free Ministry. So it's an interesting way to help folks. And Sergeant Major Troxel was kind enough to honor me with number 816 e-tool. So I'm very privileged along that line.
That is awesome. What a great story. Anytime we can bring up a SEAC and talk about those things, man, just what an amazing effect he's had on our force. And so that's awesome. What a proud e-tool hang there. That's great. So, okay, well, let's get into, before we start that. So the whole point of this leadership podcast is all about just pouring into the young kids what we've learned, failing forward, and taking care of people. And part of taking care of people is professional development. I have always been about that wherever I've gone. I will steal money from other things to pour into that because it's about taking care of people. The fact that you're doing the company of professional development is huge. I would love to hear from your side of the coin here. Why did you decide to get into professional development, and what does that mean to you?
Well, I have to be very candid and very transparent. I had a number of senior NCOs and a couple of field grades fresh back from Vietnam many, many years ago back when I had hair that poured into us in a young scout, Boy Scout troop at the time. We got to do all the same duties you guys got to do, except we didn't get to play with any of the fancy toys that y'all got to play with. But we got the core element of understanding that the maximum effective range of any excuse was precisely 0 friggin' meters in the old English that even the scouts used back in the day. And, from there, it's a pretty high standard and it's onward and upward. So very early on, we understood basic concepts like taking care of your people. You take care of your people, they take care of you. You take care of the little things, the big things tend to take care of themselves. And so by that training and tradition, I've always found veterans, always gravitated to them. I always got called out on the point to be on the leading edge of a lot of activities and processes and systems wherever I was at because I was taking care of people. And consequently, I got recognized for that. And here I am now. I teach as an adjunct in community colleges and four-year institutions around. And one of the things that we recognize is that young people are thirsty for leadership. Gallup recently reported that 34% of the millennials and Gen Zers, and in their 2023 workforce review, that 34% of the team, any team, every team, feels like they don't belong. Now, that is not a troop issue. That's not a people issue. That's a leadership problem. Leadership is not sufficiently pouring into them that they recognize that they belong on the team, that they bring value to the table. And so we've been seeing since about 2014, the Great Resignation has been rolling up. And really, what they're telling us simply is they can be misused and undervalued anywhere. And if they can be, they'll go do it for themselves. Similarly, because we recognize with Maslow's hierarchy that one of the fundamental concepts in people's psyche is that they have to belong. They have to be part of a tribe, whether it be a workplace or a family or however you define that tribal connectivity, because we are social creatures. If we don't have that, then we have mental issues. And again, if you look at the data, the CDC points out pretty closely that over 30% of our teenagers, adolescents, and young adults, college-age folks, are suffering from some type of mental health issue, depression, anxiety, and so on. So leadership is where we begin to instill connectivity. It's where we instill team. It's where we instill connection. And so professional development is part of that equation, no matter where you are in the chain of command.
All right. Golly. I mean, there's so much there to unpack.
Absolutely.
34%? That's
Gallup,
crazy.
not Charlie's numbers. These are Gallup's numbers. Yeah.
All right. Well, now, really, really interesting. So we've been doing multiple podcasts. And so this is the first time that I think we've talked about leadership is connecting.
Yeah.
And so we've talked about people. We've talked about checking in. But we've never talked about our primary job is connecting. Why do you say connecting?
Well, really, and I'm bringing a resiliency building leadership framework to this. We see leadership functioning on 5 dimensions: raising morale by creating positive climate, developing cohesion, providing purpose, facilitating team learning, and then enhancing organizational learning. This becomes a real issue at the base level because leadership is responsible for creating a culture that facilitates people being able to do work, being able to come to work and be part of a team and cohesively interact together to produce results. Now, most of my veteran friends, they've been through boot camp, which is that trial by fire, which tells people to focus on the mission, put others before self, look out for your buddy, and work as a team. That's a leadership function that is required. It doesn't matter where you're at. We have it in the family, we have it in the classroom, we have it in the local small business, where your business is dependent on how people are interfacing with your clients and your customers. They are the face of the company, not the CEO. Simon
Mm-hmm.
Sinek says it best, right? CEOs don't interact with customers. They interact with the people that are interacting with customers. Yes.
Yeah.
And so you've got to train from the ground level up. And if you have middle managers or junior managers that are off the reservation or don't understand the processes, don't understand leadership, then they are creating more problems for you. I participate in 2 Society for Human Resource Managers chapters in this area. And it's amazing to me the HR directors that are complaining about middle managers or brand new team leaders that don't have a good leadership background. They're technically proficient in processes and systems, so they understand managing processes, but they do not understand leading people because they don't have the emotional intelligence and the social IQ that's required for that upper level leadership kind of thing. So you got to start somewhere. That's why I think your first lieutenants, when they come on board, if they have a good supervisor, a good captain, good colonel, they tell them, hey, don't say nothing for the first year. Do what the sergeant tells you to do, right? Just look and
Absolutely.
learn.
Yes.
Now, I get a lot of grief from some of the lieutenants and the young captains when I, relay that, but we all know that's true because
Yeah.
they're brand new. They don't know which end is up. And so that's the whole thing is the leader has to be responsible for creating a culture that creates a positive climate that allows for cohesion to be developed and provides purpose to the team.
No, and golly, that's so good. And so I'm thinking back and I've heard Simon Sinek talking about the CEOs, not the face, and that
Right.
the mid-level is. And so I remember there was a job that I was doing outside the military, and I would bring in my key staff, and we would not talk about anything operational. I mean, very, very little. Most of it was we would be going through a book and developing it. This is why, and investing into those types of things. And
Right.
they were so confused. And what does this have to do with my job? And I was like, everything, because it's about developing you as a person.
Right.
And then we go through. But I really am struggling now because I know organizations, academic institutions that say you must do professional development, and then they send them out in a way to do it from somebody else. And
Right.
now I'm thinking, no, you bring someone in to do professional development
Right.
because now everyone's getting the same thing. We're all having the same conversations. We're
Sure.
all learning and building it. It is about connecting as much as it is about everything else.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. Okay. That's huge. That's a
It
big
is.
deal.
It is. And the interesting thing is that it's an ongoing, continuous, lifelong learning course. It's not just. I mean, you definitely have what's right in front of you. You got to deal with the 5 meter target. You got to deal with the 20 meter target. But think about decades from now. What is this going to look like? We've got the social media problem, right? We've got these dead ticket things where people are sitting there texting each other across the room rather than get up and go talk to people, just relate, Charlie to Chris. What's going on? How's the family doing? Hey, the dog just tore up the couch last night. Good Lord Almighty. Has nothing to do with work, but think about how the layers of all the things now about what's going on with who that person is as a person, not just hey, that's a coworker there, and we do have to work on whatever this project is, or we're trying to set this other thing up, but I need to know what kind of people I got with me, right?
Yes.
Where are they from? What is their background? What is their culture? What are their values? That sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Having pets is a critical thing. It's one of the first leadership lessons we give children, right? That they have to take care of the pet. The pet can't take care of itself. So you've got to put the pet before what your agenda is. And of course, there's all kinds of learning opportunities and growth opportunities there, that we can then take that compassion, we can take that attention to detail, we can take all of those different tactical skills. Now we can bring them into the classroom, we can bring them into the workplace, we can bring them into how do we operate as a family, how do we operate as a team, and those sorts of things. And of course,
Yeah.
that's one of the characteristics that so many military units and so many veterans pine for after they separate from the services. They don't have that family anymore. They don't have that camaraderie. That warrior ethos is not necessarily shared by Joe and Jane civilian out there. And so that's one of the real force multipliers where a lot of businesses can hire veterans, not necessarily outward turning them loose, but those shared values and those capabilities and those tactics then lead to other discussions. They lead to other opportunities to grow that organization and to improve all of those functions in terms of their pillars of leadership inside that company.
Yeah. No. That's so true. And hiring a veteran is such a good idea for all the training that we got in the military and for the ability to work with such a diverse workforce.
Absolutely.
And I say diverse is not only where people are from
Right.
ethnically, but just a world of dealing with a world different people. It's so incredibly diverse. And so you're bringing that experience and that talent pool right into it. So yes,
Absolutely.
couldn't agree more. Well, let me sort of change the subject as we
Sure.
go from developing people. And when people are leaving the military, you're leaving that camaraderie, you're leaving that team, you're
Right.
going into an individual work area. When we talk about transitioning out of the military and civilian, and why I think it's so critical to continue that professional development, what you're doing at Tip of the Spear, what opportunities are there for people transitioning out to work with y'all and to get into a continual program?
Sure. Well, first and foremost, we do offer certification in leadership. It's a civilian professional credential. It's on par with the Master Resiliency Training course that y'all go through. Its focus, however, is not on the individual soldier. It's on building team resiliency within whatever organization or element that you're in. So it can be family, it can be education, it can be the workplace, obviously, and then any community organizations, Neighborhood Watch, uh, you know, Clean a Mile on the highway, River Watch, whatever your endeavors are. These principles can be applied across the board. Anytime you have a collection of people that need to have greater connectivity, and again, that sense of unified effort and productivity, whatever that might be, however you do that. Additionally, we can offer traditional professional certifications like your project manager professional, certified professional in human resources, Lean Six Sigma, a variety of entrepreneurship, business management, those sorts of things. So we have in our inventory a little over 140 different professional certifications and professional levels, to include cybersecurity, CompTIA, cloud, AWS, all that good stuff. So if we don't have something, then we will align with another company that does in order to help that individual be prepared and achieve the career goals that they're seeking to do. But the first thing that you got to have is a professional development plan. All of y'all had one of those in the military, or they had different pathways that you could chart out, and then you knew what you had to plug in and when you had to get it done, and those sorts of things. As they come out, that's one of the things. There are no landmarks, no benchmarks, and so one of the things that I coach most veterans as we talk about their exit plan is they don't necessarily have a team. Most people engage with their transition on an individual basis, and I would tell you that's exactly wrong. Transition is a team sport, is the way I say it. You guys know all this because you trained as a team, you worked as a team, you fought as a team, you came home as a team. You understand teamwork, you understand building teams around you. I have a lot of veterans say, "Well, I don't know anything about networking," and I have to reframe it for them. because they understood surrounding themselves with subject matter experts, SMEs, to use your lingo, to focus on playing to their strengths and then leveraging the strengths of the other folks. We show them how to do this in networking by first connecting with people that have already got out, that they served with, that are already a little bit down the trail, and they can say, hey, whatever you do, don't do the dumb things I did. That's the most important lessons you can get from your colleagues, but also what worked for you, what's going on out there. Are there certifications that I need? What will make me more valuable? What will make me more marketable? All of that sort of stuff. Most of them are really focused on the resume, and you got to have a resume, but a resume can be scratched out on a napkin at the local lunch counter.
Yep.
And often is. The Department of Labor is very clear. The specific number is 83% of all the jobs out there, according to the Department of Labor, not Charlie's number, Department of Labor, through social networking. That includes all those jobs you see on USA Jobs. Most of those jobs, they're only up for 7 to 10 days. It's because they already had somebody in mind. And in most cases, they wrote the job description for JoJo.
For them. Yep. 100%.
And that's okay as long as you understand how, play the whistle. And if you understand the game, then you can compete. And so the way you compete is understanding the network, having the network built into those different career paths that you're looking to go into. And, because you guys did it in the military, right? You could have called the G3 and said, hey, send me a JoJo to do X, Y, or Z. And 45 seconds, Skippy would have been on his way, and he'd have just been happier. And you all operate off the big green playbook. So most of you, it would have done okay on average.
Yeah.
But that ain't the way it worked. Leadership came down and said, we got a need over here. Who knows somebody? Why did they do that? Because we psychologically prefer to buy from the known as opposed to the unknown. And so it's not who you know, but who knows you. Who knows you? What is your signature dish that you're going to bring to the barbecue, right?
Yep.
You're going to have a barbecue this weekend. You know who you're going to ask to make the brisket, because not everybody can cook brisket right. Who's going to bring the beans? Who's going to bring the slaw? Who's going to bring the dessert? And then, hey, Fred, buddy, love you, but just pick up 2 sweet Milo teas and 1 unsweet. Carl, you just bring 3 bags of ice, buddy.
Yes.
Nothing out of
that's me.
He scorches water. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's team building and how to surround yourself with a team. And if you need some help, call me. We'll plug into the network. We'll plug into Chris's network. We'll get you rolling. And it's fun doing that. I love doing that because we see immediate traction with people, and then the fog starts lifting on them. The problem with transition is moving into the unknown, which everybody is apprehensive about. Nobody likes the unknown. We recognize that we have to give up some stuff as we're leaving whatever. That's true of all transition, not just military transition. But I think the military guys feel it the most because they're giving up those teams and they don't understand that they've got to build one in front of them. They want to take on, they're leaving as an individual, but they don't understand that it's a team sport. And so we can help them connect with their team.
I think that's critical. And as someone who's 4 years out of transitioning, the TAP is what it was called, the Transition Assistance Program.
Right.
God bless them. They're doing the best they can.
Yep.
And I appreciate every single one of those people that poured into me and sat down with classes, but it just wasn't what I needed. It wasn't truly effective into getting me to the other side.
Well, and I would say, and I've worked with TAP for quite a long time, and I've heard the horror stories, all of that sort of thing. I really think part of that is aggravated by the transition process is like trying to drink water out of a fire hose.
Yes.
And they are overloaded with all these details and things so that they cannot get engaged with those little things. The TAP folks, just like the VA folks, just like the Department of Labor folks, when you sit down with them and you talk to Chris, or you talk to Fred, or you talk to Shaquita across the table from you, their heart is in the right place. Most of them are veterans. They want to take care of their brothers and sisters,
Yes.
right? But you've got to be able to receive. And not only do you have to be able to receive, you have to be able to digest it, right? Paul talks about specifically, little children, I've only given you the milk because you wasn't ready for the meat.
Right. Right.
And you've got
And
to be in that position to be able, that's why we don't burden E3s with 06 decisions, do we?
no, but I'll fully admit I wasn't smart enough to have those conversations.
Nobody is.
I'm going through it and I don't know anything about
Exactly.
transitioning.
Exactly.
And so now I'm 4 years out and I was like, well, they should have told me that. I bet you $1,000,000. If I was to go back through TAP right now, I'd be like, oh, totally get it.
There is
So,
a DoD document about transition. It is, and you guys love planning calendars. You love Excel spreadsheets.
mhm.
You're good at them. You understand back planning and all of that anticipatory. DoD has one of those charts and has a book that thick.
Oh yeah, we'll write a book.
And
We'll write a white paper.
it takes
We'll
you
write
36
whatever.
months to work through it. It takes you 36
Yes.
months to work through it. If you do I don't know that it gives you the 30,000 foot view, but I know that it does give you down in the weeds details to do. And invariably, when I show that book to a lot of transitioning service members and I say, where are you in this process? They're like, I never seen one of those. What?
Yes.
You guys live and die by the field manual, but you don't. There's a field manual right here for transition, and you can't. Okay, we got to figure out where you are on the schedule here, and
Yeah.
then we ramp up and we plug you in, and we get to rolling with it. So
So I got a buddy. His name's Kirk, and I won't use his full name because I don't have permission to do so. But he is very well known. He created an 18-month calendar in the special operations world, and we all live by it. Like I remember getting it at 18 months and was like, all right, I gotta do this. So to have a 36-month, that doesn't surprise me. I think that would be great. There's also a really good organization. I'll throw a plug out to them because I am a member of Project Transition. And you know what? I love what they're doing and what you're saying because it is a team sport to them. And
exactly.
the founder of that is bringing people together and always doing the things. So what I'm saying is even if you have the chart from Kirk, if you have and you are a member of Project Transition, still look into building a team that you can go
Absolutely.
and transition out and then make sure you're still doing professional development.
Absolutely.
Even if it's not about transition, always be working because when we say transition, we're talking military to civilian, but everyone's in transition at
Oh,
some
absolutely.
point.
So
And so
let
we're
me highlight
transitioning.
that. Let me
Yeah,
highlight.
go.
I'm in transition because I'm an empty nester now, right? I am close to retirement age. I'm in my wife. We're in transition. You have, of course, you have divorces. You have moving from one part of the country to another. I'm about to have to start parenting my parents. I'm not looking forward to that transition at all.
Oh,
We're already having to parent some of her parents. There's always something that you are in transition from. You may be transitioning from this job to a new job. You may be transitioning from the line into managerial roles or senior management, those sorts of things. We have multiple transitions in our lives. And so, and obviously grieving is a huge part. All transition involves grief. I was talking to
yes.
a social worker, psychologist not too long ago, and I knew this, but having her say it that way, I was like, wow, I have been missing the boat here so many times because so much of what transition is grieving for what you're giving up, what you're leaving, what you're losing. We see it a lot in families when they move from one house to another house. That other house was a home and they're leaving that home. Now they get to build a new one, but it's not the same shell. It's not got the same. It don't have the little marks on the door jamb where the
Mm.
babies were growing and you marked how high they were. It doesn't have the little chew marks on the baseboard where that stinking dog, that puppy was chewing everything under the sun and did
Yeah.
that, or the cat messed up the carpet or whatever it was. There are huge family legacies. There are family traditions that come out of all of that. In the same way that you have those military tradition and the ceremony that's so critical for recognizing change in the military, we have similar kinds of processes that are just not as formalized in our families, in our friendships, in our workplaces. And there's a lot to be learned from that as well.
I've never thought of that, but every move is a grief of what you're leaving behind.
Yep.
Man, that's
And,
huge.
and of course, veterans, I don't have to talk to them very much about having to move out onto unknown ground. That is the most uncomfortable feeling you guys must have. No or very little scant intelligence on a particular situation that you're moving into. But hey, we got to go because there's some bad stuff going on over there. I've never been in that, thank goodness. So I can't say I understand it like you guys do. I can only imagine. But we all do this, going off to college for the first time, going off to summer camp for the first time. Not the same as going to boot camp. I get it. But for our children, it's just as nerve wracking. It's just as intense. And so we need to prepare them. We need to create that positive climate for that. And it becomes a real leadership challenge for family members. Going from middle school that everybody, and now you're going to the big junior high. Whoa. And adolescence is hitting and hormones are kicking in. And oh my gosh.
Oh,
No
this
wonder
is a
we have
tough
all
time of
these
life.
issues in your eye.
Well, listen, how do we get a hold of you? How do we go to a website, phone number? What is the best way to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. You can simply go to TUCO's.com, and that's our website address. We have different cohorts of building and leading resilient teams coming up. And then we have one about every 7 to 8 weeks, depending on the way holiday season falls. And that sort of thing. We'd love to get you involved in that. You can set up a free consultation with us as well. And we'll be glad to help you in terms of professional development plan or to chart out what you're trying to get achieved in your career goals, and be more than happy to do that. Would love to network with you on LinkedIn, either through Tip of the Spear Professional Coaching or through my personal LinkedIn account, Charles Living, and look forward to working with everybody to help them with that team development and their professional development as well.
Awesome. Well, I'll put all that on the bottom, and then I'll make sure if you would just make sure that you let Charlie know that you heard about him through Tuco's talks. That'll streamline the communication and get him through. So let me take 1 second here and just
Sure.
thank you. Thank you for all your service to the military, and if people will go and research, they'll go through that. I'm not going to list everything, but you've done so much for us just living right in Columbus, which is such a big mecca of things for the U.S. Army and the community and the veterans and the Gold Star families and everything that you've done. So appreciate you very much.
No problem at all. It's totally been my privilege and an honor to get to work with these servant leaders for our nation. They were willing to go to downrange and protect our nation and our families. So it's the least I can do. So glad to help any way I can. And we look forward to helping you elevate your career in your next phase and unlocking that leadership to take it to the next level.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, Charlie. Well, everyone, thanks for being with us today. What a great opportunity to talk about professional development and the things that we need to continue doing. So from Charlie and I, this is Tuco Wright, checking off.